It's Friday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Alabama Slam Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanna.
What's going on, guys? It's Patrick.
And it's me, Steven.
And we're going to try to go ahead and get started. We've got a ton of stuff to discuss this week. We're going to go over 2 episodes of Dynamite, one from last week and then the one from last night, since we're not getting to record on Tuesday this week like we normally try to do.
Christmas parade.
Christmas parade, baby. Got to take them kids.
If I don't take the kids to the Christmas parade, that's it for me on this podcast. So the wife will shut it down.
Yeah.
So.
Did you get to see Santa?
We did get to see Santa. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, the strip club always has the best Christmas flow, by the way. Just FYI.
Somebody said that
They
last
always
year.
go out. Yeah, they always go all out.
I don't think I've ever seen this parade. And it goes right there.
It goes right there. Yeah. It's a nice one.
Yeah, it's funny. All right, well, let's get into SmackDown. I'll go ahead and say this. I didn't watch SmackDown or Raw this week, so this is going to be all you guys. I may interject with a stupid opinion here or there. But so the first note we have says, is Iyo Sky the worst booked champion in wrestling right now?
That's your note, but I'm going to say yeah with you.
I mean, she just consistently gets beat up. She never wins. She never looks strong. Like the SmackDown, like they have all the baby faces in the ring. Like Kairi Sane could have getting beaten up by all the baby faces, any of them but the champion, and she just gets pinballed around.
And it's worse. I mean, you can even take that a step further. That's damage control in a team.
Yeah.
They are, I'm referring to her now as Bianca Belsina because you just feed them everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter. She took on all 3. I mean, Bailey wasn't there because they forgot to tell Bailey to come out to the ring.
Right,
but
yeah. I mean, because you look at it. Okay, so there's Roman Reigns, book strong. There's Seth Rollins, book strong. Both the men's mid-card titles. Logan Paul doesn't wrestle, but he's still presented as a huge star.
Yep.
Gunther obviously is going on. He's gonna be he's already the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time.
Yep.
Judgment Day with the tag titles.
It's going strong. Or when they lose, it's 2 other huge names.
Even Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, nobody gets the upper hand on them.
Nope. And
Poor Io's the worst one.
And what's sad is she started off so strong. I mean, that match where she went against Belair when they turned on Belair at, what was it, Backlash?
Yeah.
She was looking good. They had something with it. But since then, I don't know what the mentality of what they're trying to do with the damage control in the current form, but all they're doing is feeding up to Charlotte and Belair. Yeah,
like we talked about last week, like maybe this is setting up for like the original 4 horsewomen at WrestleMania kind of thing. But why does Charlotte, Becky, and Bianca need Sasha? They've already beat up damage control.
Well, heck, why does Bianca need Charlotte at this point? She's beating them all up on her own.
So yeah, that was the thing that struck out from Saturday night or Friday night. It was just like, man, poor girl. It's just.
Speaking of poor girl, the next note is poor Butch is just getting his ass whooped trying to get sympathy, and the crowd only wants Bobby to beat him up more.
Yeah, let's go, Bobby.
Crowd didn't care. Yeah, crowd was like, Bobby Lashley's cool. Let's just cheer for him.
They cheered the shit out of him. I was not expecting that because Butch is one of those guys who really does well fighting from under and getting some love.
Yeah,
but they
weren't having it.
No, I was like, I had to look up to. I'm like, is he from there?
Yeah, no, they were cheering for old Bobby, which Bobby Lashley's cool, man. He's jacked as shit.
Yep.
Like, looks like a monster. And like, yeah, poor Butch is trying to like get the crowd to fire up. And they're like, nah.
Nope. Get your ass whipped.
Like, get beat. And that goes to my other note. Like, I had on there, like, what, Montez Ford?
Yeah, the next one is, when is Montez Ford ever going to get a singles push? He's in a worse spot than he was 18 months ago. Now, you're right. I thought he was going to get a breakout after Elimination Chamber.
I don't think he's going to be the one that shines out of this group. I think, and I can't think of
Angelo?
Yeah, Dawkins is going to be the one that pops out of this because he's coming off good in these things.
He's coming, I mean, if you go back, when was it with the Street Profits against the Usos at SummerSlam, right, in Nashville? And there was that whole moment where the Street Profits lose and Montez is like consoling Angelo and people are like, oh, this is where he's going to turn. That was 18 months ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's just now been relegated to like standing in the background while Bobby Lashley beats the shit out of.
Oh, but he says some good shit talk.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's charismatic enough. He's great in the ring, has a fantastic look. He's married to one of the top stars in the other women in the women's division.
Yeah, I think they're about to have their own show too, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, like, if it's going to when is it going to happen?
At this, like I said, at this stage, I think he's going to end up being forced out of that group and becoming like the Bailey of that group in a sense where he turns good guy. But I mean, what was he said on Friday? It was like they extended Black Friday. I was like,
yeah. I mean, I don't think it's to the point where like it's too late for him because, like you said, he's charismatic and all that stuff.
Sure,
but like
yeah.
we've been talking about this for seemingly for forever, and they've now like you can't look at Montez Ford and be like his career's in a better position now than it was.
Nah, he's definitely
2 years
plateaued.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they probably missed the mark on that one. Gave him. Well, I mean, they gave everybody some spots, but I just thought his performance at Elimination Chamber was going to put him in the top spot sooner rather than later, but they didn't do that.
Yeah, if you were taking bets post Elimination Chamber, you'd be like, oh, this guy's going to have a huge 2023.
Yeah, I think I even told Jamie when we were watching it. I was like, yeah, this guy's. They got a split sooner.
He's standing in the background in a suit,
spinning his wheels. I mean, they get a match occasionally, and they, depending on who they're up against, they either it's 50-50 with them.
Yeah.
So the next one is Logan Paul is naturally hateable, and it works. Feeding KO to him isn't a bad idea. It's not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they had a better opponent for Logan Paul than KO because I mean, just that's me selfishly loving KO, but like this is kind of what Kevin Owens needs to be used for in that company in a perfect sense is to kind of be fed to Logan Paul.
One of the things I took away from this segment is I don't know about y'all, but I assume we're all on the same page. The what chant is the worst thing that's been invented in the last 50
terrible.
Yeah, Patrick's been talking about that for a while.
But this was the first time I legitimately was like, thank you for saying what? Because he's out there just, what did he say? And I was like, exactly. That's where you need the what chant when he's just talking gibberish. It's like, are you having a stroke, you dumbass? Yeah,
it sounded like they maybe Logan Paul doesn't get as produced as maybe some of the other superstars.
And it showed up heavily on commentary because we talked about last week where you were unhappy with MJF and his basic dick jokes and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, Logan Paul is WWE's MJF. When he was on commentary, all he could do was talk about, how fat Kevin Owens is.
Yeah, which is
a schoolyard insult.
Not a good look because then if Kevin Owens is not going to be, but then if Kevin Owens beats you, you just got beat by a fat guy. Like part of what makes, who can I use an example? Part of what Paul Heyman's a great example. Part of what makes him great is that he's able to talk up whoever Roman Reigns is facing. But then you can also be like, but you're not as good as my opponent. So it's talking up your opponent while also getting yourself over. And that's a skill. And it can't just be like you're old and fat and stupid because then when you beat that guy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you've got to play up to your opponent to make you both look good as opposed to just shit talking somebody down to the ground where it's like, okay, yeah, I beat a scrub.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that more when we get to AEW too.
Yeah. So speaking of... you kind of said this a minute ago that Bianca Belsina garbage match with Damage Control.
Yeah. I mean, they fed her Kairi Sane this particular episode, and it was just off. I mean,
this was bad.
It was.
This was bad. I don't know if it's Kairi Sane like trying to adjust to the WWE style. I don't know if it's a language barrier. But now, like, this is now 2 matches. She had the match with Charlotte that was kind of all over the place like this. Now she's had it with Bianca. Mm-hmm. So you're the common denominator in both of them.
It is. It's making me re-question, how much blame I put on Charlotte before.
I mean, yeah, there is that because this was a similar thing. Like it's whenever you have 2 people that are just standing in the ring looking at each other because somebody is off. It's never.
And there was. I mean, it wasn't just miscommunications. There was directing traffic from each other trying to get them.
And you can tell Bianca was getting frustrated. Just getting pissed off because you're looking stupid out there.
Yep.
This was not good.
So it says women get a lot of the spotlight, but it's a stale encore performance. Is that about?
This is just the women in general. Because right now, I mean, that's one of the things that WWE does, I think, significantly better than AEW is they give the women significant time on television. And it's not just 1 or 2 people or one person with random person thrown in. We get Damage Control in a segment multiple times a night. over weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
But at this stage, all we're doing is rehashing the same thing that we did with the Belair stuff at this stage, or the Charlotte stuff. We're back to where we were, 2 WrestleManias ago?
Yeah. Yeah. It's what's that, True Detective? Time's a flat circle, something like that. It all just comes back around. Yeah. It's the same old with
and
these women.
That's fine. I don't mind. You can reuse stuff, but if you're in the Vince era, yeah, we have no memory. We're all dumb as hell. You won't remember what the match was from last week. But at this point, we're building history and talking about matches that have happened and outcomes of those that we're trying to be fed to remember. And that's too soon to be reusing that garbage.
So Randy versus the Bloodline is next. He came out. He's now on SmackDown, right? And so he's going to be fed a bunch of them until we get to Roman. Is that going to be Royal Rumble? Well, who's a bunch of them? Jimmy's the only one left, really.
Oh no, Solo. You still got Solo.
You get Solo, yeah.
Duh.
So you do Jimmy and Solo. Yeah, this has to be the Royal Rumble match, right? For Roman?
I would think. And what's hilarious is, to see, Randy being on that program instantly demotes LA Knight.
Yeah, who's kind of just been, he showed up this episode, but he was off the last week's episode of SmackDown, or 2 weeks ago, I guess at this point.
You got CM Punk coming this Friday, so that instantly demotes Randy. So now LA is down to the 3rd.
Yeah.
Was Punk on either show this week?
He'll be on this.
He'll be on, as we're recording this. If you're listening to it Friday morning, he'll be on tonight, yeah. You have to think that they're moving Randy over, because if we get Roman and Cody at WrestleMania and Cody wins, he's going to be on SmackDown, right?
That would be my thought.
And so but Randy and Cody make for a natural first feud for him.
You're assuming right away that we're getting Cody and Roman.
Bro, I'm gonna be scorched earth on this fucking podcast if this shit doesn't happen this year.
Because at this stage, you could get Randy eliminating Cody to set up a feud later on for that, and him getting Roman. That's your WrestleMania match.
Listen, Roman.
And then you got Cody and Seth.
Roman has had his time, okay? The belt, first of all, the belt needs to be on TV every single week. It just has to be. Like, this is part of wrestling that annoys me.
Since it's been on there.
It has to be there. And so if it ain't going to be Roman and Cody this year, like when are we going to finish the story? When he's 85? Like, damn.
That's real long time storytelling.
Yeah.
Too long.
But this kind of leads into the next thing I was going to talk about too, with SmackDown has the opposite problem of AEW, in the sense that AEW has 365 jillion belts that show up on TV. SmackDown has 2 belts that show up on TV. You got your women's title, and occasionally the tag teams show up there?
Yeah.
Because Logan is a part-timer.
Yeah.
Reigns part-timer.
And whenever the women's champion shows up, she just gets all the good guys hit the finisher on her. And why does she even have the belt at that point?
So, at this stage, it definitely, one of those belts needs to come off of a part-timer. Whichever one it needs to be, I don't care.
Roman.
But there's a part of me that thinks Roman still got some time in him, unfortunately.
Well, we'll
look,
talk.
If it's not Cody and Roman at WrestleMania, we'll shut this motherfucker down. What are we even doing?
Yeah. If it ain't, you gave Cody a documentary.
You did. But
all this stuff.
He ain't losing his heat. He's still just up there. And if you feed him the right people over the course of time, because they're going to do they're doing a CM Punk Reigns match at some point. So you're going to be feeding them that, whether or not it's for the title. But that's their money match, and you got to do that quicker than later, because you don't know how long you got him.
That's true too. He could wind up punching somebody backstage or something like that.
So the rumor that I keep reading is that they're going to try to set up Punk versus Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I don't care. You don't do that. Just don't.
It'd be a quick match.
Yeah, don't. See, this is some of the problem I have with WWE too. Is like, you got LA Knight. We have guys like Montez Ford. We have talented people on this roster. We don't need to see Stone Cold. We don't need to see The Rock.
But every time they are out there, they sell crap, and people love it. That's what
KO versus Stone Cold was cool, because we got to see Stone Cold again, and it was fun. That KO promos as Stone Cold, all that shit was really fun. But I could give 2 shits about Stone Cold versus Punk.
I mean, it's been too long for me to remember what their beef was. Were they even together at any point, or did he just talk shit to him while he was retired?
No, I think there was literally the only thing where this comes from is there was like whatever WWE game Punk was on the cover of, 2K13 or whatever the fuck. They did a press junket and like Stone Cold was on there and they like talk trash to each other. And that's it. I think that's where literally all this is coming from. Just like a WWE exclusive thing. Like, man, I just don't, whatever. I don't want to, unless they're, because for that to be interesting to me, those guys have to be like doing promo battles back and forth for like a month.
Yeah.
I don't care about the match. Stone Cold is way past his prime. So was CM Punk, by the way, in the ring. But like,
KO pulled it off because of his hate for quote unquote Texas. Punk could talk a lot of shit, but I mean, yeah, are you bringing back Punk to use him in a nostalgia match that isn't going to be more than 3 minutes?
Right. So
that would be a waste.
Let's just stay away. Let's stay away from that.
Yeah.
They probably won't.
So for Raw, let's move on into Raw from Monday night. The first note is 1 week later, this is the Raw that they should have put on the night after Survivor Series.
To me, this was a banger Raw. You had some solid promo work. You had 4 matches that I would say are good, 3 that were great. That this is where you should have been trying to hook people instead of what you gave them on that Survivor Series Raw where you kind of shit the bed.
Yeah. I liked Shinsuke and Cody was good.
Yeah.
It just kind of sucks because Shinsuke's not going to win.
I'm like, there's a problem with mid-card villains in the sense that Nakamura needs the win, and Cody needs the momentum if he's going to complete this story.
Yeah,
and I mean, how long are you going to drag this thing out? Is it going to be a multiple thing? Because at that point, you're killing Nakamura.
Yeah.
If it's a one and done, then it could have been better timed. But I get that you're trying to feed somebody to Cody. I just, this is the problem with the fact that you've put all your cards into one faction and not built. I guess you're building up Gunther, but you can't feed Gunther to Cody because you got him on his role.
Right.
So I mean, it sucks because I like this Nakamura.
Yeah,
I mean, the way he is selling it, the I'm going to finish your fucking story for you, bitch.
Yeah,
that was a solid,
It's just, Nakamura comes off this thing with Seth Rollins. Rollins beats him twice.
Yep.
Now he goes right into this thing with Cody. He's going to lose again. And there's no babyface that has any kind of mid-card title on that he could try to go after this. Because Gunther has the Intercontinental and the tag teams are also tied up in a heel group. So he's just kind of like floundering. And I think that part of the thing that sort of sucks about Shinsuke's career is that if he would have come into WWE, like if we would have got the Shinsuke we got in New Japan that was basically like Michael Jackson, Freddie Mercury in WWE, I think dude would have been a huge star. But we kind of got all that after the fact. And we're getting it now. We're getting it now. A little too late now, though. It kind of sucks. Right timing is everything in wrestling.
Right now, they are just so heavy with good guy and so light with not significant, but plausible bad guys for anybody to eat. I mean,
yeah. And they're building up Drew McIntyre as a bad guy.
100%. And I like that.
Yeah.
I think the drawing of Drew as he currently is and they planted some seeds in the back, even with the Judgment Day where, I mean, when Sammy came out to talk to Drew, he was doing the Rhea Ripley wave, and they talk about it's like, well, what the fuck? Why is he doing Rhea stuff? Yeah. Where is Rhea? So it seems like there's going to be some shakeup, and Drew and Ripley might end up somewhere, which I ain't hating.
Yeah, it would just like if Drew and Rhea become an offshoot and Rhea's no longer in the Judgment Day, then that's kind of it for the Judgment Day.
Well, I'm sorry. Are you not seeing they brought out R-Truth to be with the Judgment? I mean, at that stage, I love R-Truth. R-Truth entertains the shit out of me. But the moment you have partnered him up with the Judgment Day,
like, did they do that for real?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's funny as hell. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
it's funny. It makes some comedy act though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's back there in their clubhouse talking about, hey, I know you're looking for a teammate. I'm here. That match has already happened. Oh shit. Did I win?
Yeah. Yeah. And it just makes remember, Damian Priest has this Money in the Bank briefcase.
This is my hope at this stage. Rhea fucks him. Just takes that briefcase from him, gives it to Drew. Drew becomes your new champion over that, and I'd be fine with that because then you've got Damian in a position where he can be like, no, I ain't doing that. Shift off. You leave Dominic trying to figure out what the hell he's doing, and it kind of sets up a bunch of stuff. But in the current format, they have definitely taken a significant step backwards.
Yeah, I think if that does happen, and that's probably a pretty good idea, Damian needs to go down to NXT and feud in the NXT title scene.
I just don't want to. I don't need the Archer of Infamy back because that was a crap gimmick too.
You have to because basically he is going to be so emasculated at that point. And there is no he's never going to be a good guy on the roster, not in this current iteration. So either you ride him off TV, or the beauty of NXT is that you can kind of have guys filter down. Yeah. And you can kind of let them have good matches and get the people get back on their goodwill. But
heck, you got Baron Corbin headlining the Deadline event on Saturday.
That could easily be Damian Priest,
100%, because that guy got a huge rehab down here.
Yeah. So, this Judgment Day though, it has.
It's definitely gotten weird.
It's fallen off quite a bit.
Yeah, that is weird. I saw the note on here and I was like, what the fuck happened here? He just said Judgment Day / R-Truth. I was like,
and quit calling it a clubhouse. Stop. It stop.
Works if you're doing a comedy, that's fine. R-Truth saying,
I guess that if you want to make it a comedy act, sure, call it a clubhouse. But
you don't have Rhea Ripley in that group and call it a comedy act.
No, but he came out there to help during the tag team match between Dominic and JD versus the Creed brothers. He was wearing a Judgment Day shirt. He was sitting right out there cheering them on, and they have definitely integrated him. And Damian just whipping his ass ain't going to be enough.
It's just weird. It's weird.
So the next note I have says, you can tell Vince is gone by the state of the tag team division.
Vince, what's the old saying is, why do I want to pay two guys when I can just have one?
Right. Yeah.
But we are in a at least a silver age of tag team right now. You got the Creeds, you got DIY, you got Imperium, you got Judgment Day, you got Alpha Academy, you got New Day.
Yeah.
You got the women's tag team division picking up as well. They are no longer just in the background wasting time.
You're waiting for one of those tag teams though to pop off, because everybody is all those people you just mentioned are all kind of the Judgment Day are tag team champions, but they don't feel like they're not an A+ act. You know what I mean? Not the way that when the New Day had those tag team titles, the New Day was one of the most over acts in the company. And
that's I'm hoping. I dig Finn. Finn is he's a solid worker.
Yeah.
I get that he's not your biggest person, but he comes off as dangerous at times. I think he's got more believability than Damian Priest right now. And if you ended up, putting him and JD in a team together, I think they'd be a dangerous ass team.
Yeah.
But that's your tag team champs right now is Goofball and Finn.
Yeah, and they're clearly trying to position the Creed brothers as a real threat.
I like the. It was a little clumsy how they did it this time with the Julius and Brutus.
Brutus, yeah,
where Brutus had him in the vertical suplex stalled, just walking around the match, comes over to the corner, gets tagged out. Passes him while still suplexed over Julius into the same vertical suplex and marched his ass around for another.
Yeah. They're Steiner Brothers 2.0. That's 100%. What they're trying to position them as. And it works. It's a cool gimmick to try to run back around two strong ass dudes.
I want that gorilla hoodie shirt that Brutus came out in. That was a solid stupid shirt.
We'll see. But there were moments when Vince was running WWE that they didn't even have tag team matches. So the fact that they're even having them, I guess, is progress.
You just had a tag team turmoil. Where it was a significant portion of your show.
Yeah.
Which is kind of. We're talking this because I watched it in replay and I got it without commercials this time. It's a 3-hour show, but it's got 55 minutes of commercial. That is 1/3 of that show is commercial.
A lot, yeah.
which is, I mean, you'll never see it be 2 hours again because they are getting paid for an hour worth of commercial.
Yep. That's why I watch it in 38 minutes. I fast forward the DVR. I run through Raw.
Yeah, I'll probably start doing that again after Christmas. Get into WrestleMania season.
I basically watch the promos, and then when I see like, oh, there's Nia Jax, I'm not doing myself.
Okay, so Nia Jax,
I just skipped over the Nia Jax. Who the fuck wants to talk about Nia Jax?
She had a match. It was a decent match, but it's still a Nia Jax match, and it made me mad because this is something I'm going to bring up in AEW too. Is before that match, Becky Lynch confronts her in the back, setting up a match down the road, which means that the match you're about to show off serves no point because you already know that match is a filler match to get you to the bigger match that's right down the way to get your receipt for the bloody nose kind of thing.
I mean, that's a classic trope of wrestling, though. That's going to be hard to book. I mean, everybody. I mean,
you do that after the match.
Everything.
You don't put that on right after. Before the match.
Sure. You do that.
I mean, we had the solids. You got the spot where I don't know if that's Shayna not lifting her heart high enough or Nia not pushing off hard enough where Nia sat on her head in the suplex.
Yeah, see, that's what I watched the confrontation between the two, and then when Nia's music hit, she walked down the ring. I was like, nah, we're not. I don't have to subject myself to
But this was probably the best Nia Jax match that she's ever had.
Well, good. So that's if we're doing 5 stars, that's probably
half a star.
Yeah.
So the last note for Raw is to quote Matt Hardy, to yeet Seth and Jay.
So evidently Yeet's copyrighted by somebody in the independent league.
Yeah, good on that guy for getting it copyrighted and then being like, hey, I'm going to get some money out of this.
How long ago? Do you know like how long ago?
A couple years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not recent. It's long enough that they should have known better.
Yeah.
But that was I mean, you had a solid promo in there where he came in there and because he can't say yeet anymore, he dropped a bunch of ooses.
Yeah.
But I mean, that turned into a solid match that after it was done had an even better storyline. Ass whooping there.
Yeah. They had good chemistry together. And these are two of the, most over guys on Monday Night Raw.
So this is probably the match I would have watched if I would.
Yeah.
I'd sat down to.
I mean, you had this was a solid Raw. If you had to put this Raw on last week, the numbers that they got for this viewership probably wouldn't have gone down as much as they did. And then,
as somebody that didn't watch the show, I'll say the only thing about this show that would have given me any interest would have been Seth and Jay.
You say that, but that Drew coming out there and talking his thing and then Sammy getting out there and the fact, I mean, because they have a believability with both of what they're saying and then just Drew being like, you know what? One of us ain't walking out of here. Get a damn ref.
Yeah.
Let's say that I did take on that. 2 segments out of a 3-hour show is not worth me.
Again, I'm telling you that you also had, that wasn't your none of these matches this time around were your standard WWE 7-minute segments. That's the other thing. They were 15-minute match. They were about the same length as the Continental Classic matches.
Yeah, the two that I watched were.
The tag team match was a 2 out of 3 falls. It went about the same time. The Judgment Day match with the Creeds was probably the shortest outside of the women's tag match and the Nia Jax one.
So let's go ahead and switch gears and get into AEW. We've got two Dynamites and a Collision to get through. So last Wednesday, the first note says Moxley versus Lethal was probably the weakest of the CC, which is the Continental Classic, the weakest of the Continental Classic matches so far. Lethal would work better as a stalwart in Ring of Honor. Moxley is still one of the most over guys in AEW. And then there was Moxley. It says Moxley and Roosh enter the chat.
Yeah, this was well, okay. So Moxley and Lethal though was just kind of it was still fine. It was okay. It's just not. We've kind of been spoiled with these Continental Classics. Fucking Swerve and Jay White, Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson. We'll talk about.
I can tell you 100% why you felt this way about this match.
I don't think it was trying to be anything. I think it was just like there's no drama there. Moxley's going to win.
Well, Lethal has no chance in this match whatsoever.
Yeah,
and he is the odd man out in this competition. As far as in the Gold League, that is Gold.
Yeah,
League, right?
yeah.
He is the odd man out in this one because he is the sports entertainer in a more hard hitting slugfest group.
Jay Lethal's a really great wrestler. I remember when we started this podcast and Jay Lethal came to AEW, I was like, why the hell do they keep just beating this guy? They just beat him into the ground.
They gave him like 2 wins and then just whooped the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Right?
And like, we talk about the size of AEW's roster. Like, for as much as I love Jay Lethal, he probably should not be on Dynamite. Like, he should probably be in Ring of Honor.
I
mean, the guy like Jay Lethal, like in the Gold League, a dude who probably makes more sense is a guy like Miro. But Miro's probably not going to agree to lose to anybody, so you can't use him in the damn tournament. So you kind of need, the Blue League has guys like Danny Garcia who are just kind of there to eat, Mark Briscoe, they're just there to eat losses, right, to the top guys. And New Japan does this with the G1. There are dudes in there who are young dudes who you're like, he's not going to win. He's just there to eat pins.
I would have liked it to, and this gets into some of my grief with this Continental Classic as we go along. I would have liked to have seen it stretch a little bit more, or do your math behind the scenes so it's not just 3. You got almost half your group right now on one side completely out of the running of trying to win this thing. There's no drama in that. We all know that it's going to end up. Let me phrase this. I would love to see Swerve and Jay White be the final 2 on the gold. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm almost 100% convinced it is going to be Moxley and Swerve. And I'm fine with that. That's still a good match, but there's story in the way that Swerve won the Jay White match.
Yeah.
But if that's all we're trying to get to, just having them go on the tear out there, it takes the drama out of it.
But I kind of like it, though, because it's like it reflects real sports in a way, right? Like the Philadelphia Eagles or like the Alabama, whoever, like if Alabama's playing, Tennessee Tech, they're going to beat them by 67 points. You know what I mean? Like Jay Lethal has not been presented in AEW as any kind of threat. John Moxley is one of the biggest stars in that company. It does not make sense, especially if you do not have plans for Jay Lethal going forward. He needs to kind of eat this loss. I get what you're saying that it takes the drama out of it, but I think part of the drama comes from, and I know we're jumping all over the place, last night when we get Swerve and Moxley backstage and they have the little face-off and you go, oh, okay, this is this is what it's gearing up for.
It took so long to get there, though. I mean, you had John Moxley standing there for a minute and a half, just snapping his knuckles and popping and snapping and just popping his hands.
He's doing his promo. He was doing his thing.
Just standing there before somebody finally walked up to him. It's like, did somebody miss a cue or what here?
The Moxley and Roosh thing, that was just trying to be a slobber knocker to get the crowd involved. That's at least it was that match. Like, yeah, that's not my cup of tea either, but at least it's trying to be something. So like, I'm not going to grade it the way that I grade like Moxley and Lethal when they're Roosh and Mox didn't do headlocks.
Right. So there's a couple of elements here. Kingston is the best promo guy in the business, and he might be top 5 of all time. Danielson's response helps demonstrate to the audience how important that this tournament is. And then asterisk. I can never say asterisk. AEW is doing a disservice to their fans and the wrestlers. 3 amazing promos, 1 solid one, and 1 that felt overproduced, and you only saw 1 on TV a week later on a less watched show. So then I've got the collision notes down here that say, Mox's promo is exactly what I love about AEW. It feels real, and that when AEW is good, the wrestlers feel like real people rather than people playing wrestlers. That's probably the thing that reels me in the most about AEW. I don't know which one of y'all said it, but
I'm the asterisk.
a lot of the WWE I say a lot. Yeah, a lot of the WWE promos to me, because they're so overwritten and rehearsed and such, probably feel.
And see, this is why I go back. If you watch that Drew McIntyre promo, it feels more like the same style.
100%. Yeah. It feels like this is the direction I feel like AEW should run in. This is what I've said. Like Moxley in that pre-tape promo that aired in Collision, shitty lighting. He's just on the steps. It's echoey in the room, but like it has a rawness to it. It has a realness. That's the appeal of a guy like Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston, I don't think Eddie Kingston is not going to work in WWE.
No.
That is not what they're trying to do. But here on AEW, it's like a match made in heaven. Like again, I talk about this all the time. Like, there's a lot of people, even the really great wrestlers of today, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, even MJF at this point, you can kind of feel the performative aspect of what they're doing. You can feel the caricature of somebody trying to play a wrestler come out.
I mean, when Seth cackles, it's not because Seth finds something funny. It's because script said Seth cackle.
Right. And Eddie Kingston, Kingston feels like there's not a show there. It feels like you're just watching a dude who's going through the mud.
He is. I agree with you 100% in the fact that I think what he was doing in that, when he was just sitting on the ground, feeling sorry for himself after already eating 2 losses.
Yeah.
And getting ready to, had he already eaten 2 at that point?
Yeah.
And he getting ready to draw the Daniel Bryan card.
Yeah.
And I mean, it felt real. It does.
Yeah.
And that to kind of go off on that asterisk, if you went on to AEW's Instagram, they met with everybody that was in that gold league. They talked to Briscoe, they talked to White, they talked to Lethal, they talked to, I guess they didn't talk to Roosh.
Probably not. You got a language barrier there. So
they talked to Swerve, they talked to Moxley, and with the Swerve had a solid damn because he's out there. He's talking about Paige first. He's like, you know what? I just came off this. He drank my blood. I'm inside you now, boy. And you're going to be with me forever and I'm going to haunt you that way. And that's a solid damn talk, and he talking about how he's just, I'm beat up, but you know what? Still going to be Swerve. You got White in the back where he's talking about how he's, everybody's writing him off and all he wants to do is wrestle with his damn friends, and you're rigging this competition so he can't even have fun and taking away his enjoyment of these things when he's the person that's, had the experience with these and should be one of the favorites to win.
Yeah.
You got Moxley sitting there talking, his thing. So those are the 3 I thought were amazing. The Mark Briscoe one where he's trying to pull out of the shadow of his brother, it was good, but he's rough on listening to a promo just because he's Mark Briscoe.
I love it.
Briscoe is better situated though as more of as much comedy as AEW as the genre of the wrestling they're trying to do will allow. Like, that's what he's better. Like, this Continental Classic, what they're trying to get over, and I think they're doing a pretty good job at it. It is incredibly serious. Like,
up until it's not.
The dudes who were positioned at so like Swerve, Moxley, Brian, Kingston,
Brody.
Well, I'm talking about the favorites of the tournament, like the guys who were probably going to be there at the end. They are treating this thing like it is the biggest thing happening in AEW. And like, that's what we was getting to the note there. Like, you have Kingston's promo and then Danielson's on commentary. He immediately gets to respond and he's fired up about it. Like, that signals to the audience, like, this matters. This thing matters.
And then you had the one, Jay Lethal's promo where he's back there and he gets Jeff Jarrett, Sonya Dutt. Yeah. And whatever the giant it comes out there. And it is just the most overproduced thing of, we're going to try to get somebody out here, which don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm going to jump here because it pissed me the hell off. Of you cut that promo in the back, and then do you get anybody out there with Jay Lethal? No. Who gets somebody out there? Daniel Garcia manages to get somebody on commentary to help his ass out. I mean, F you.
Yeah. It's there. You can tell the parts where AEW tries to be WWE light, and they do not do it well. So my advice is just don't do it.
And why would you? I mean, you put the Moxley promo on Collision. Again, no, you got half the audience, or at best you have half the audience on that show to watch that promo. And you got these people cutting promos that are solid ass promos that build what you are showing. And you're just like, it's good enough for Instagram.
Yeah, they got to be on TV.
So the next note says Sting's last match is in Greensboro. They mentioned he's 24-0. I think he's getting a title shot. I had lunch with my friend Eddie Forsyth yesterday over in the Shoals, and he thinks that they're going to put Ric Flair in the ring.
No, please God, don't.
And he said that he's read it several places. And I was like, why in the hell would they do that?
140 years of experience in that map.
I would not do it. My note for that was like, why are you mentioning Sting's win-loss record if you're not gearing him up to go out as a champion? Because like, If you're going to, if Samoa Joe winds up with the belt at World's End, right? Because the devil, whoever screws MJF or whatever the fuck happens.
My question,
Samoa Joe, it makes a lot of sense if he just destroys Sting in his last match and sends him out to pasture.
Well, my question to this is, why would you put it in a title match though? If it's his last match, if he wins the title, that means the title's getting retired. If he loses the match, you already knew he was going to lose it because it was his last down match. What's the point of even making a stipulation like that as opposed to just having it be the novelty act of what it is?
For one, it's probably not going to be your hottest angle going into Revolution anyway.
Then it can't be.
Whatever is going to be MJF and the devil. So yeah, I don't see a problem. Samoa Joe has to beat somebody, right? And it gives him even more cachet
You
if
say
Sting
that.
goes out on his back and beats him in Greensboro.
But we'll get to my thoughts on Samoa Joe here in a moment.
So how would they get to, real quickly, how would they get to Sting versus Darby, which is the way you've kind of thought they would send Sting out?
Well, I thought that's what they would do, but if you're not going to, and because Tony Schiavone, it's not like it was a slip by Ric Flair where he was like, he's 24-0. Like that was what Tony Schiavone said, which means somebody wrote that. Tony Khan wrote that in there. If you are not going to do that, if it's going to be Sting and Darby, don't mention his win-loss record at all. I think it should be Sting and Darby. I'm not saying Samoa Joe and Sting is the best way to go about using that. But
I definitely don't want to see Ric Flair though.
Nobody wants to see that.
Ric Flair shouldn't even be on TV right now.
You could fill him up with 37 gallons of his woo energy, be the man, get the can crap. But no.
So the next note is Roosh and Mark Briscoe are two guys who have this chaotic energy, and the crowd got into this thing way more than Mox and Lethal, which is surprising.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you why that is too here, because that is a match where nobody knows who's going to win.
That's part of it too. Sure, that's part of it too. But I think this is now 3 weeks in a row where Roosh has kind of just put in a cold match with no kind of build up, and for whatever reason, the crowd just like gets behind that guy. I mean, he hits hard. There's no bullshit. Like the chops, you can feel it. Mm-hmm. And Mark Briscoe is the same type of way. Like his arms flailing. Like there's a type of, like I put in there, like chaotic energy that you can just kind of get behind.
But I really think it's the fact that you don't know what the outcome, because this is one of those ones where it could go either way and it wouldn't really affect who's going to be in the finals. So it has that energy to it that Moxley Lethal don't, because Moxley ain't going down to Lethal. I'm
just saying that, I'm not disagreeing with you there, but like, especially if you're looking at a guy like Roosh, I think we made it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. We kind of said the same thing. Like the crowd is kind of behind him in a way that is kind of weird given how he's positioned. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's the leader of a group that really doesn't matter. And yet he goes out there and starts chopping people and kicking people, and the crowd responds.
He's good at his job.
He's good at, that's at the end of the day, like that's what it's all about, right?
And AEW is more concerned with that than they are anything else. Like you hear way more, this is awesome chants.
Way too many for stuff that doesn't deserve it at times, but
there's better. I think there's better wrestling in AEW than there is in WWE, but
yeah.
They chant a lot of "this is awesome" for things that, and
in WWE they chant a lot of "this is awesome" for things that also don't. Yeah. Where you're just like, it is what it is.
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was Dragon Lee's brother.
Yeah. And because who's in the faction? So it's Preston Vance, who shouldn't be in it. Mm-hmm. Another guy who should probably be in Ring of Honor. We still have no idea why Andrade is not the leader of LFI.
Yeah.
Is he a good guy or a bad guy?
I don't know. With a lot of these people in AEW, I don't know. Like, is Tony Storm a good guy or a bad guy? I don't.
She's a bad guy.
Yeah, with using the steel plate in her.
So is Sky Blue a good guy or a bad guy?
I think she's still a good guy technically right at this stage because she hasn't embraced the miss as much. She's just edgy.
Yeah.
And like Moxley, last time he was beating the hell out of the best friends, Orange Cassidy. And again, though, you're not going to get that crowd to boo John Moxley.
Right.
He's kind of the guy.
So the next note says MJF is at his best when he's backed into a corner, either as a babyface or a heel. His promo did a fantastic job of putting over Joe, putting over AEW, and there was even a subtle jab at Punk.
Yeah, so this was 2 weeks ago, Dynamite. Yep. Yeah. That when he's not doing the grade school insults, he's fantastic. Somebody needs to get in his ear and be like, calm it with all the other stuff. You're too good to rely on that kind of shtick. When he feels like he's pressured, either, like I said, either good guy or bad guy. Some of his best promos were when he was beating the shit out of CM Punk. He was covered in blood. He does the white T-shirt. Like
his best stuff to me is when it's personalized,
when he's like the Patrick Bateman from American Psycho.
And he does, and we talked about how Paul Heyman does this, and this is something that we agree that MJF does really well, and he does it every time he's in a match with somebody. He builds them up, because even if it's even if he was fighting Jay Lethal tomorrow, he would talk about Jay Lethal's ROH championships and all the.
I used to watch tapes of you, and he would do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we know Jay Lethal ain't going to win that match, but beating scrub Jay Lethal ain't going to do MJF any favors.
Yeah, so somebody needs to get in his ear, because he does it too much where it's just like it's either dick jokes or it's any kind of thing that any kind of third grader on a playground in America has said multiple times over.
So we got a couple of different devil and henchman notes here. The henchman devil part was interesting because it was different. I legitimately thought the broadcast had been cut, so the reveal that the devil had hacked the program worked. And then the next one says, who do we think the 4 henchmen are? And somebody said Wardlow had mask hair.
Wardlow had mask hair.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think it's Wardlow. And I think that's where they positioned him out on the card after the devil. I think that it's kind of like a wink, wink. It's going to be him.
Yeah, he came out. His little pompadour was all disturbed. But
I don't think that they meant to do the devil glitching the way that it came across on my TV. I don't know if it was a YouTube TV thing, but like legit, it went black, audio completely silent for like 15 seconds.
And when it came back, I got 1 second of the long type out thing, and then the second, and it went away real quick, so I didn't get to read that without pausing.
Yeah.
The only reason I didn't think anything was fucked up because the AEW bug was in the lower right-hand corner. I was like, okay, well, this is intentional.
See, that would have been a smart thing. If the bug goes away. Mm-hmm. And you really like surprise people?
I was looking for it though, but like I thought it was still really effective.
So I mean,
but that was 2 weeks ago. Wednesday night, it was not effective because you just did the same thing, but a worse version of it.
I'll be honest, I don't care who it is anymore.
I'm starting to get to that point where I'm like, I just kind of would rather watch the Continental Classic.
Best case scenario, I mean, what is it, Adam Cole?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not Adam Cole, anything else is stupid.
But I mean, even then, do you care?
I will care. Like, I guess I'll have to see what they do. Only
if it sets up, which we can get to this in a minute. Only if it sets up some super badass Roderick Strong babyface, which they kind of started that last night.
Or if the execution of the reveal is good.
It's not. I mean,
but I have confidence that it's going to be at this point.
We are essentially just dragging this shit out because we don't have a clue. And the more you drag it out, the more I'm starting to feel like it's going to be a Mustafa Ali, a Sami Callihan, or a Dolph Ziggler, which is going to make me sad.
Ali would be, and I put this in the text group thread. Ali would be the only other choice besides Cole, because wasn't he behind the Retribution stuff in WWE a couple of years ago?
Yeah, but that wasn't good.
I mean, Sami Callihan does a similar hacking gimmick wherever he is, but even I mean, I just don't care anymore because it's. I mean, worst case scenario is going to be like Sean Spears and whoever else from the Pinnacle and stuff.
If it's just the Pinnacle redone. Yeah. I talked about this on the solo podcast when we were coming out the pay-per-view. Like, if you're Tony Khan and you're looking at like how the devil stuff is being talked about, which is not great. Like, it's definitely not. At least people were interested when it first happened. Now people are like kind of over it. Should you just make the devil Swerve Strickland? Should you just push all your chips in on this dude and be like, hey, Swerve, guess what? You got to take us to the promised land here. Just here, we're going to give this thing. We're going to surprise the audience.
That would definitely be a surprise.
You're already on a hot streak. We're going to build it as like you are literally the super villain of AEW that has been above this thing. You're going to fucking win the Continental Classic. You're going to win this title. Prince Nana's going to have these belts when you come out. He's going to be dancing. We're going to give you other people. Like,
it would definitely be a boom Swerve. Because I don't think anybody would see it coming.
But, I mean, it's going to have to be something just so far out there like that. But at this stage, I could give two shits about any of this devil stuff anymore.
Yeah, and it's not, again, it's not that it's a bad idea on the surface.
Right.
It's that the execution has been piss poor.
It's like we don't care anymore.
Months.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's wheel spinning.
It is.
They should have done it at the pay-per-view. This is the one that reveals.
And that makes, I mean, sure, I get it that if you're doing that and Adam Cole is legitimately hurt and you can't have him out there, that you're stalling. But at that stage, you gotta make adjustments to change it somehow.
Yeah,
have it be multiple people. Have the devil then get got by the devil when Adam Cole is ready to come.
Yeah, so anything like that. Like the fact that the devil is now just a presence on screen and has not been physically present at all. There was one time where the devil has been in the arena. It's just it's not working.
Yeah, it's NXT Anonymous, it's Gold Dust TV, it's QT TV. It
needs to, like, it would be different if the devil was showing up every week,
right,
and was in the ramp and was doing these things, like, and since we're already talking about the devil, flash forward to what happened Wednesday night. Like, the camera just can't catch MJF. I know what they're trying to do, setting up Hangman, and they want the audience to kind of believe that maybe it is MJF, but like, we got to rule out some of this stuff for it to make either let us go ahead and know that it's not MJF by seeing the fucking devil crack MJF over the back of the head, or let us know it's not. Do something.
Well, I mean, heck, even if MJF gets cracked over the head, it can still be MJF. I mean, I go back to Bubba Ray Dudley, Bully Ray.
Yeah.
Got his ass whipped at his own wedding in the middle of a TNA ring to sell that he wasn't aces and eights.
I mean, yeah, it just. I'm like I said, I'm not so sure that I wouldn't just put on the whiteboard, like, should Swerve Strickland, like, is it time to push all our chips to the center of the table with this dude?
Hell, make it be Andrade for.
Well, speaking of Swerve, Swerve versus Jay White was damn near the perfect television match.
This was, I mean, from 2 weeks ago, Dynamite, this was absolutely fantastic. There was no huge spots. They just wrestled.
Yep. And it wasn't a decisive win. It was a quick win where it could have gone either way. And in this case, it just wasn't Jay White.
Yeah. I mean, Swerve right now is on a level where watching this dude, I've said it before, I've never seen anybody in wrestling history move like him. And I'm talking about just like in the ring, hitting the ropes, moving around on the canvas. There is such a uniqueness to this dude that nobody in wrestling has right now. That, like, I'm not so sure he's not like top 3 best in the world right now, top 5. And like, he's on that kind of. What we're watching right now is a dude break out in front of us in real time. And like, I don't think I'm over exaggerating. If AEW does this right, this is going to be a dude that, like, we talk to our grandkids about. Like an all-time great wrestler. I really do believe that this guy has that within him.
Yeah, of all the people, and we've talked kind of about this before, but of all the people that have been acquired by AEW, either via the indies or other companies or whatever, like Swerve has made the most of it. You know, Moxley was probably the best investment in terms of when they brought him in and what it did for the company. Business-wise early, yeah. But Swerve's made the most of it.
Moxley, when he came over, he just came over at the same level that he was already at. He was a main eventer in WWE, came over as a main eventer.
There wasn't anywhere for him really to go beyond where he was.
He's already at the top. Swerve came over, and slowly but surely, we've seen this dude go up. He's gotten better and better every single week. And, like, remember that AEW has damn near done a couple of things that could have sabotaged this guy, right? Pairing him up with Parker Boudreaux and Trent. Just like, why? They're not ready for television.
Right.
Nope. Swerve was able to weather that storm. Then he hooks up with Prince Nana. The Prince Nana dance is over shit.
And unfortunately, I mean, I hate to say this because I think they have a look that is unique in AEW, but Brian Cage and Hobbs, every chance they get crapped on in that place.
Yeah, and should Hobbs just be with Swerve? Hobbs is with the Don Callis thing, and the Don Callis family might take off once Will Ospreay comes or whatever. But
he was with them somewhat, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Swerve is just the type of guy where, like, hey, this dude's ready to be the main eventer, so let's pair people with him. Like, I like Gates of Agony. I think they have a cool look, but they're Ring of Honor guys. Like, right. The Mogul Embassy, it's time for them to expand, and maybe they will post Continental Classic. I mean, I would be absolutely shocked if Swerve does not win the Continental Classic. And at this point, I think it's a wrong move to have anybody but him win it. You put him up against Bryan Danielson if you want. Like I think they would have a fantastic match.
I think that's where we're going to end up. I think I would enjoy Brody King more because I think it would be such a unique clash of styles that it would showcase both of them in a way and elevate both of them.
You could do that, and that's a possibility too. You could do that, but yeah, this match, Swerve and Jay White. I feel bad for Jay White too because it's just like it's bad. He's in a bad spot,
right?
Because he's not not as hot as what he was, but dude is still one of the best wrestlers in the world.
I enjoyed the match they did. I just did not enjoy the hype he tried to get throughout the whole match with him just calling out whose house, guns up. It was like, quit spamming your damn calls, man.
This goes back to something I don't think we put in the notes. So like there's been a lot of talk, a lot of pictures about AEW like attendance recently. It's been popping off. Attendance is bad. And when you book these 15,000, 12,000 seat arenas, a lot of times the sound is going to get lost if you don't have that thing packed out. Like if you go back and watch when Monday Night Raw first debuted in like 93 or whatever, like it looks like ECW. They're in small ass arenas.
Yep.
There's probably 1,000 people there.
But it sounds like it's on fire.
I don't know why they don't come to like Huntsville more.
Well, that's like
kind of 8,000 people.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. So like there's a thing in like ego lifting, right? You see these dudes at the gym, they put on fucking all this weight on the bar, thinking they look cool, but they like can't do it with proper form and they end up injuring themselves. Like would AEW at this point just be better of swallowing their pride and being like, listen, the product's not as hot as what it was. These video screens, all this shit looks cool production wise, but it's a limiting factor in us being able to book smaller venues. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back. We're going to have a fucking black curtain. We're going to have one little tiny screen over the thing. We're going to book a 1,200 seat, small ass venue.
Sell it the fuck out.
We're going to sell it out. We're going to push the people right up to the damn ring. And it's going to feel like when you were watching ECW back in the day. And we're going to get the product. You say it all the time. Perception is reality.
Yep.
When the camera starts coming across and the shit's packed and you literally can't hear the wrestlers because the crowd is like on fire, which they are.
And to the point, because this was from this week's, I'm losing interest in the Continental Classic as it is because it's the same match over and over again, with the exception of swerve matches generally, because it's always it's consistently, let's have a chop fest back and forth. No, you hit me. Let's go to the outside the ring for a minute and a half, whatever. There was a point in this week's Dynamite where you heard Taz open up a can of Coke, just right on thing. You hear that. And I shouldn't hear one of the announce team's soda cans over the crowd yelling, and I shouldn't have him going like, just needed something to drink, man, because that's telling me you ain't even interested in the program you're selling me.
I mean, the Coke can was probably right here, 6 inches from the microphone. You're going to hear it.
But that's telling me he ain't even interested in what he's selling.
It's bad. It's bad production too. Yeah. I think they just need to. And listen, they keep touting this All In. Get your tickets now from All In. Can we focus on what's in front? All In is fucking in August of next year.
You've got an ROH pay-per-view in 2 weeks on the 15th. You've got World's End 2 weeks after that. But hey, we ain't heard of you ain't got that on the Teletron. Because
AEW is the only thing that they can really hang their hat on, which is a big time success, is All In from this year, which was great. It was fantastic. 80,000 people. Like, I think the company just grew too fast. And it didn't have a lot of growing pains. And now, 3-4 years into this thing, now all these things are starting to rear their head. And you kind of have to figure out what we're going to do. I wish they would just swallow their pride, go smaller venues, downscale. You already are going to be seen as second class just because you're not WWE. Don't try to be like them. I say it all the time. The more ways that you can run in the opposite direction, I think that is what is going to get more people to come, because
they can't do it though. The problem is they book these things, so they are committed to spending that money. Otherwise, they're going to lose money in order to get out of it, and then they're hemorrhaging money in 2 places for the same. You're paying for 2 places to have a smaller venue.
So there, we do have one thing left to get before we get into Collision and then another Dynamite. So what was, let's touch on this quickly. What was the best thing about what happened on Dynamite this week? And if you say anything other than Christian Cage, you're lying to yourself. I'm guessing that's a Patrick point.
I think
that's actually me.
Oh, wow.
I agreed with it. Yeah, but I think that was his note.
I just figured that was coming from you.
No.
And that is the best thing that happened on there. And it is the least AEW thing that happened on there. And it's unfortunate in the sense that what it's relying on will not be replicated with AEW again.
Well, you say that it's the least AEW thing, but I actually think that it's more AEW than probably what you realize, because like you don't get to drop an F-bomb in WWE. You know, like there are elements of WWE that AEW should take. Like there are just like basic tenets of good wrestling storytelling. But
hold on, the F-bomb didn't make that segment. That it was a cherry on top of an awesome segment,
right?
But if you had taken that out, he could have just said, "Go screw yourself," and it would have gotten the same thing. And you can do that in WWE.
But just the ability to be able to have, like, to be able to drop an F-bomb, to be able to, like, anything can happen in this kind of segment, because AEW is presented as this like crazy, chaotic sort of storytelling place. I think that it works. Christian is going to work. Christian and Edge are so good. TNA, CMLL, and Mexico. It doesn't matter. They're world class. They're going to be good wherever they're
The problem is what this is capitalizing on is 25 years of storytelling.
Yeah.
And once you have blown this load, you're a 4-year-old company. You got nothing else out there that's going to carry that 25 years worth of storytelling along that makes it as big as it is.
It's just, yeah, it was WWE-like, but then like the bad version of this is the shit with Miro and CJ Perry.
The upside down pineapple.
Where you just go, if I wanted to see this, I would watch a better version of it over on the other network.
Yeah, that was like it's shades of Bobby Lashley and stuff.
100. I mean, this to me, I have to assume that Miro and CJ Perry are just swingers, and this is what they want to do at this stage, is just try to Miro likes to be cuckolded or whatever, and this is just how they get off, because this is the same damn plot, and it sucks just as bad now.
It gets bad. It's absolutely terrible.
So let's do some quick hitters to get through the Collision and then the other Dynamite. We could spend a little bit of time on a couple of these things, but so Claudio versus Brody was a slobber knocker.
This to me was the match that my beef with a lot of these classics right now is it turns into a chop fest. I mean, I've watched Collision and Dynamite probably about 6 times now, just because it annoyed the shit out of me so much. I wanted to go back and sat there and I mean, give me a second here to, is it in this pocket?
Get a whole list of notes
of the number of chops, kicks, strikes in that damn match.
Yeah.
And it is like 180 strikes, 85 chops, and 70 damn kicks in that match. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. In the match that you really, really, really liked at the end of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, this is the match that deserved to have all the chops and the kicks, because these are two hosses going at it. This is the slobber knocker of meat banging on meat. And this is, you have watered it down to the point, because every other match has been exactly what this match is.
Did you like 90s Japanese wrestling?
I didn't really get into 90s Japanese wrestling.
So I think that's what, like, if we could sum this podcast up in like.
But it's the same thing. I mean, when we get to the Kingston and Daniel match, it was a solid match. But we had seen it 6 times, 3 of which on this episode of Dynamite Collision alone.
Here is kind of the where we are, just like fundamental differences. Like, I would rather watch what you call like chop fest, or like guys wrestling physically and like putting their bodies on the line, than watch guys in WWE where the punches are let up, the impact is not there, because they have to take care of themselves more. And I get that. This is just because they have to be in the house shows.
Don't get me wrong. I love seeing physical matches.
Yeah.
But when everyone is the same match, I mean, I'm 100%. I can tell you which producers are doing which matches based on the finishes, because generally it's going to be a pile driver lariat. Let me put you in a submission if it's a Jon Moxley match, or it's just back and forth. Let me hit you, you hit me, and we'll just stand here and prove ourselves.
You don't think WWE has the same problem?
I think there's a formula on both of them, but when you are doing these matches so close to each other and trying to bill it as the greatest thing since sliced bread, it takes away from opportunities you have to differentiate yourself. With people like Swerve are out there, and because he doesn't do the same exact thing that everybody else seems to be doing, right, it makes him stand out. But because he's the only one that's standing out, everything else is just white noise behind it.
And see, that's how I feel about WWE matches. Like, I just feel like it's like all the pieces are interchangeable. Like, they hit the moves. It's like you can tell how it's going to go, and it's orchestrated. So, like, yes, there is a formula. Like, I love Ric Flair. All of Ric Flair's matches are the same.
At some point he's going to do the 5 Flair moves of doom, where he hits a corner, flips over, comes back over, face plants.
But like, I just that style appeals to me, and this style of hard hitting action, because I did like Japanese wrestling. I did like early Ring of Honor.
But when you were selling a competition, and this is why it annoys me, because. And I don't remember when was Roosh and Moxley on Dynamite or Collision?
Roosh and Moxley was Dynamite.
Dynamite, okay. Yeah.
When you have these matches that are supposed to be significant, we want to win, we're trying to get a title shot. I don't need you to test your mettle. I want you to win this damn thing as quick as possible. I want you to be out there kicking ass, taking names, don't let your foot off the gas. Let's go. And when it becomes hey, I'm tougher than you. You can hit me in the chest 16 times and I'm going to stand here. No, you're just taking damage at that point to weaken yourself later on. So be smart about it. And everybody's doing the same damn thing.
I mean, yeah, there are certain tropes that maybe people could, do a little bit better of, reining in. But at the end of the day, like, I would rather watch that than watch Randy Orton and Dominic Mysterio, as great as those two guys are.
Yeah, the matches in WWE are more of a means to an end to finish up a storyline than they are.
See, but I like to see there is a formula to both of these, but to me, the formula of this particular classic match it doesn't matter who at this point. It could be anybody in that ring with the exception of Swerve, and it is the same damn match.
Well, let's get to the next one. Garcia and Andrade wrestled at a breakneck pace for 15 minutes. Great match.
Who was that? Because I got a different definition of breakneck than whoever wrote this.
Oh no, bro! Get in the ring and try to wrestle like that for 15 minutes.
He was in a chokehold for a minute and a half in there. He was in a headlock or something down on the mat for 2 times for like 3.5 minutes. That's a slow ass pacing match. There were spots where they started to speed up, yes, but for the most of it, that was a heavy rest hold match.
No, they were like the ability to like hit the ropes.
You want to see somebody hit the ropes real hard? Go back and watch that DIY Imperium match, because Giovanni Vinci, when he comes off the ropes to slam into Ciampa, it is at 150 miles an hour.
It might be. I have to go back and watch that match, but yeah, I thought these two dudes did a great job.
What's the kickoff show for? I can't think of the guy's Nathan something or other. The guy Seth Rollins trained, Nathan something or other. The real short, fast guy. But I mean, that dude, where he hits the ropes so hard, he glitches his head through the ropes at times. I mean, it is insane how fast and hard this moves. Where this won't hit for me. This won't breakneck to me. This was a steady pace that had some good points to it, but I wouldn't have said broke. I mean, there was so many damn rest holds in this one.
No, we'll agree to disagree on that. I would say that's this was again.
How many times you watch it?
I watched it twice.
Okay. Watch it 4 more times. You'll see how
I'm going to say, if I get in that kind of level of it.
So the next thing we have here is there's a super over babyface gimmick buried in Roderick Strong. And then in parentheses, this can be combined with Samoa Joe and the Rings of Disappointment. I think they started on the Roderick Strong angle last night a little bit with him throwing the chair away.
Yep.
Yeah. Standing up and...
He needs to lose the Kingdom, though. They are dead weight.
I would agree with that. They all should be Ring of Honor acts.
Don't discredit Ring of Honor with that crap, because they are.
You need guys like Ring of Honor. You need guys like the Kingdom that people can beat in Ring of Honor. They
just suck the air out of everything around them.
They're not great.
I mean, you could literally just get some jobbers from the town, put them in orderly costumes behind Roderick, and it'd be the same damn thing.
The Kingdom, whenever they don't have Mike Bennett's wife, what's her name? Maria
Kanellis.
Yeah. I mean, she's always been the star of the Kingdom, really. I mean, they're good hands, but they're not at a Roderick Strong level, and they have no charisma.
No, and
I love how everything with him, he'll yell everybody in the same way he was doing, Adam! Last night it was Samoa!
Yeah.
But here's my beef with why I say Samoa Joe and the Rings of Disappointment. Anything that is ROH at this point is substandard to what AEW is trying to sell. I'm at this stage assuming that Joe's going to lose to MJF, which is a stupid ass move, because the MJF title run to me is outside of the great matches he's had. It has devalued that title significantly. But Jay Lethal is a ROH guy, 0 points. Mark Briscoe, ROH guy, 0 points. They have, every time they have an opportunity to elevate that brand, they just take a big old dump on it, be it the TV title or whatever. It is one of those things where I think anybody that is associated with that brand is just there to get somebody who's less talented over at times.
Well, but Jay Lethal and Roderick Strong were never at the level in Ring of Honor as like Samoa Joe and CM Punk. And when CM Punk was there, he came out in the Ring of Honor gear. He came out to the old Ring of Honor thing. I mean, Samoa Joe, you could say, is kind of Mr. ROH. He is really what put them on the map. It was his matches that people were kind of flocking to initially.
AJ Styles would have been there at that time too.
Yeah, and AJ Styles. Yeah. But really, it was like Samoa Joe and CM Punk were like the first ones, and then Bryan Danielson also is up there, and I think he's presented strong.
But this is not that ROH anymore. This is not. This is a substandard product that they are just using to job out people. You
talking about this current version of Ring of Honor? Yeah. I would agree. Yeah, I mean, with that. They're not. They have a pay-per-view coming up, and they only have like a couple of matches announced. Like it's clearly not.
From what I understand, they haven't even broken 1,000 tickets on that thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is not being thought of with any kind of forethought whatsoever.
And you've got this Triple Crown thing where you're combining one of your titles to get rid of it, and a Continental to call it Continental is a disservice, because this is really just a U.S. title with a vacation trip into Montreal.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's go ahead and move. We still got a bunch of stuff to go in here. Ethan Page is better than 3/4 of the AEW roster, so explain to me why he's not being used.
I mean,
he has no personality.
Oh no, bro.
Well, he ain't showing it then.
And that's what I think is bad. I think it's like with any kind of workplace, like at some point you just get beat down. You can go find like Ethan Page promos where he was with Scorpio Sky in the back, and he's like on fire. He's feeling it. He's got a great look. I think this is like, not to say he needs to go somewhere else, but like.
So did you write this before or after they announced his match with Omega?
This was before.
But I mean, you got this guy coming out here to announce he's going to fight Kenny Omega. That's great. I'm sure he's gonna lose. But
I'm not saying it's great booking. The booking is doing him a disservice. I'm just saying, like, the talent he has and the promo ability that he's shown in the past since he's been in AEW, it's blasphemous why this dude's not positioned more regularly.
And then instead of giving him time to show off and elevate him, you give time to Curryman and formerly known as Evan Bourne.
I would agree. Yeah, and you put Ethan Page in situations where he has to get beat by Kenny Omega. Yep. Yeah, I would agree. And like the guys like the Kingdom.
Yeah,
I mean, I would rather see Ethan Page than anything else from Miro at this point.
Yeah, especially if Miro's got all that backstage bullshit about not wanting to take a pin, but to anybody. Yeah,
I mean, at some point, like, if I was Tony Khan, I don't know if I might just have a meeting and be like, if you want to leave this company, come talk to me afterwards. I'll let you out of your contract.
Yeah,
I'll find guys. Like, if you're not going to play ball, what the fuck am I going to do with you?
Next point I've got, and this was one of mine, was that Tony took Renee's shoe off and her chin up, tits out. She leaned over, bent over, and took Renee's shoe off, which I thought was funny as hell. That's just a quick note on Tony. And then I put, give me Danielson and Kingston over pretty much any WWE match from this year.
I'd could tell you to go back and watch those 3 matches on Raw. I'd tell you to go back to watch the first night of Mania, where you got to see. Here, let me pull out my receipts on this one, because this one got me hot too.
Without watching it, it was definitely not as good as anything on Raw.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Drew versus Sammy, Seth versus Jay, DIY versus Imperium on this Raw alone was better than that match. Gunther versus Sheamus at Mania. Gunther versus Sheamus and Drew at Mania was a better match than this.
But Gunther versus Drew though is a good example of the physicality that we're talking about.
And I'm in on that, but that's the difference, is because it stood out.
Gunther versus Chad Gable was really good.
Yeah, but because that match came after you had already had a slugfest between Claudio and Brody, you had already done every single one of these as a let me chop back and forth for 6 minutes in a 14-minute match. It's the same thing. So this one, I mean, do I think they did well with it? Yes. But it's the same stupid thing. I'd tell you to go watch KO and Zayn versus the Usos at Mania, Charlotte versus Rhea at Mania, the Elimination U.S. title match, or Sammy versus Reign at the Elimination Chamber, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest before Damian Priest became a piece of crap, or Iyo versus Belair at Backlash.
I'll give you KO and Sammy versus the Usos, and I'll still put Gunther and Chad Gable, but the rest of them were just fine. I'd much rather watch Danielson and Kingston go at each other. That's just my opinion.
And I thought too, like, Kingston has... I think Kingston is doing something different in some of these matches than maybe what you're kind of looking... And I get your point where it all kinds of gets the same, but like... Kingston is selling more in these chops when he gets hit
when he is getting whipped, when he is asking Daniel to whip his ass, and he's sitting there on the verge of crying, not just like, oh, this is good. I mean, he's trembling, gnashing his teeth. Yes, he is selling that stuff because he doesn't want to get it, but he's a masochist and needs to be abused. I get it, but if that's the story you're telling, stop the other 6 teams from doing the same thing, because it's taken away from the story you're selling me.
I'll give you that.
But this was, I think what it just comes down to is just fundamental differences in like the in-ring style that we enjoy.
Probably.
So let's get on into Dynamite, the second Dynamite, which was last night, real quick. We got a couple of points. We've touched on some of these already. So MJF and Hangman interaction was great because it felt unpolished.
I did not like this promo, and why I said, while it may have came off as good to a viewer who had not gone and watched that Instagram of Swerve, all Adam Page did was rehash exactly what Swerve said, only less interestingly.
I enjoyed it because where there's so much polish in WWE. Everything is so perfect, right? Like you can, from the lighting of the arenas to the presentation of everything's like that. I enjoy, this is not just in wrestling. This is artistically across all things I enjoy. I like things when things are a little bit more rambunctious, when they're a little bit less polished.
Where anything can happen. I love that aspect.
Fact that like, they're back talking to Renee. She's trying to talk to MJF. Adam Page just walks up. She starts talking to him. MJF and Adam Page have their thing. Adam's like, I'll let you go. MJF starts talking shit, and Adam like hits the camera as he's coming back. Like, that's a kind of energy where I'm like...
Well, he smacked the camera when he's gesturing with his hands, too.
And I kind of dig that. Like, I dig the like shooting the promos in the shitty staircase with Jon Moxley.
But WWE would not have had Max with the back of his head in a majority of that promo. They would have both been facing, so you could see their faces at times.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that it looks completely staged. With MJF,
I get 100% what you're saying with that. I enjoyed the spontaneity of it, but I don't think, and this goes back to the Nia Jack's comment, where you now have Paige challenging MJF to kind of disrupt his thing right before you have Samoa Joe go out there to try to get that belt. So we already have your next, in theory, match booked before you even finish your first one, which is why I think this is an ROH. You know, you got the ROH label, you ain't getting anywhere.
I don't know if I would have put Hangman in this position where clearly they're trying to frame him storyline wise as the devil with the beer bottle. I don't think that's a great choice. But the spirit of what this promo was, again, I think is something that AEW should try to build upon and do better with, like, because it's the best of both worlds. It's like AEW hates doing invisible camera stuff. It always has to be tied to an announcer, which, like we've talked about before in the past, can kind of limit you story wise. But doing something like this, where you have an announcer, but the wrestlers just completely go do their own thing because the show's off the rails.
Well, and that happens so much in AEW. I mean, the announcers are mere props at a lot of times for AEW, which is good. I mean, I hate the invisible camera thing as much as anybody else because of the suspension of disbelief that you lose with it. Yeah. But at times it helps tell that story better than what they're getting across here. No.
So what do you mean by timeless women's division?
So Toni Storm is the women's division at this stage. And I mean, it's a comedy act to begin with, but it's getting more slapstick as we go along. And this particular, I loved her little promo she had with the gout where she's got her feet up and she's talking about how was Fatty Arbuckle worried? Was Jean Harlow worried? Was Francis freaking Farmer worried? Which, you know, if you know your history, somebody got a hold of the Hollywood Babylon or Dark Hollywood book. Yeah. Because all those people, you know, had shit happen to them that they didn't survive from. So, I mean, we're setting up her stupidity of the situation. But then you get this match with Sky Blue, which was I mean, I struggled through this match. And when she's standing there doing a windmill punch for 30 seconds, just twirling her arms like she's doing calisthenics. And then you get Rhea, what is it, Rio?
Riho, yeah.
Coming out afterwards, and it just looks even more goofy. Timeless Storm, I would kind of wish that while I want the women to have more spotlight in AEW, I wish they got less time on AEW.
It's just an odd, so a couple of things about Toni Storm. Character-wise, she's doing phenomenal.
100%.
The Ben Mankiewicz introduction is great.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
It is fantastic.
She's a great character.
Production has not nailed down her in-ring gimmick at all. The camera is missing stuff. We talk about this
like when she's sitting there on the when they were talking about her on the she knocks Sky out of the ring and she's laying in the middle of the center of the match doing the Marilyn Monroe various poses in the center, or Madonna, whoever she's trying to do. They're shooting from the side when you have the overhead camera that would be taking the damn pictures that would match the damn picture you're trying to show.
And they miss her when she gets in the turnbuckle and turns to the camera dramatic. They're just completely missing it. Yeah. So there's a sloppiness there that is not great. But why is Britt Baker not on TV? Why is Ruby Soho and Saraya not?
I was wondering, has Britt been injured, or has she just been written off?
The only one we know is injured is Jamie Hayter.
She has supposedly taken time off to help Adam with his injury. Is the story I keep reading.
She didn't take off when he was fucking concussed. And also, you didn't know where he was half the time.
She can't leave the house for a day and a half.
But even still, I mean, all you're doing is bringing back one-shot people to feed to these two people that you have, that you're building your entire division around, and none of them are believable. I don't give a flying fuck about Abaddon coming back at this stage to fight Julia Hart.
Yeah, I don't care about that either.
You could have, when Kiri Hogan and Abaddon were fighting, you could have heard a mouse fart in that building.
Yeah, that's
yeah. It's not great.
They have, but again, there's talented women in that division. Yeah. It just comes down to
they just ain't on TV, and they're
not on TV, and it comes down to
and they aren't named Toni Storm.
Billy Starks is feuding with Athena right now in Ring of Honor. If you watch those clips, that might be the best story in wrestling. What they're doing down there in Ring of Honor with Athena, like training Billy Starks and like her minion, and now like there's like a student teacher thing is coming. Athena's doing great work, and yet she's behind a paywall.
Yep.
When she could easily be on Dynamite. Same with Billy Starks. Like, yeah, I get Billy's young, but she's more talented than she's more talented than Riho. She's more believable than Riho.
100%.
So like, there's so much potential in AEW, and it honestly, what it all boils down to one thing, which is that like there's one dude that's heading up this circus in AEW, and he might not be the right guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just keep
it forward.
We talked about earlier about the tag team thing and Vince's hatred from it, which means that you didn't get great tag team matches. Tony's obsession with a certain genre of wrestling limits a lot of what comes across on
and just
TV.
His inability to like
translate it,
to be creative. Like at some point, it just comes down to like the skill of creativity. Like, I think that is the biggest problem with. It's not, to me, it's not the wrestling in AEW.
Like when he nails it, he nails it, but there have been a lot of things that have fallen flat. Like the CM Punk MJF thing from a couple years ago, I thought he fucking nailed.
I don't think he said anything other than you go out there and say what you want to somebody who's incredibly gifted on a microphone.
Yeah, like at this point, I think that's kind of what like we have to start getting. Like,
well, then he nailed that.
CM Punk and MJF given, or have to take their own credit for that probably, because like. If that was all Tony Khan, then the show always has felt really schizophrenic.
Yep.
Whereas like it goes super, super high, and then it goes low, and you're like, what is the same person even responsible for this? It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like if you were like listening to an album and it's like heavy metal, and all of a sudden there's like a damn clarinet solo and it goes orchestra, and you're like, what did something happen to the radio? Like what's going on? It feels like that. Weird.
So the last note says Christian and the Karma Machine.
So this is me. We got the payoff match between. I say we got the payoff match. We didn't get a payoff match. We got Edge phoning in a bunch of stuff. It was solid, but he knew he wasn't going anywhere with this, so he gave his standard "I'm comeback Edge" kind of softness to it. Christian carried his ass in the ring, and we get the swerve. I mean, we because Adam has consistently shown himself to be the bad guy in this. Karma caught him in the ass with the Wayne mom, which is the least interesting part of this whole angle is the Nick Wayne and his mom.
Who greenlit that?
I think this is what we talked about last week. This is just you can see where they're trying to go, but this is just the worst way to go about it. Like, I don't feel like this doesn't need Nick Wayne's mom to be a part of this story. Like what you were talking about, this is a 25-year built-in history. If you just took the easy route with this, it would still be good. But I thought the match was good. I like Christian. Yeah. All his promos are great, but the Shayna Wayne stuff at the end was just.
Christian carried this match. He 100% carried it with because he has a gift to portray his character even in the middle of fight.
Yeah.
Whereas that is something that stands out so broadly because there's very few people outside of the high end people that have that ability. Moxley has that ability. Daniel has that ability. Swerve has that ability. But that's what makes this so great is because he is selling it in such a fashion with a storytelling that those others do more in their stylistic performances. He does it with a character work kind of thing.
He's the only true blue heel in AEW. All the other guys they're positioning as bad guys get cheered.
And I'm going to argue that he's not a heel.
Well, in this story, maybe if you want to argue that, but he's definitely a bad guy on TV. The crowd is responding to him, but I think I had this in notes. I know we were all over the place. All the people all the villains in AEW they're all the cool characters.
Yep.
That's why people cheer him. Like Swerve is a villain, but Swerve is fucking cool. So people are like, I want to cheer for that guy.
It's because they have nobody else that goes out of their way to develop a character beyond their wrestling ability.
Yeah, Even House of Black has it all, though. They have the wrestling ability.
Oh, don't
they look cool?
But they are relegated to a substandard show that doesn't get the exposure. I mean, Collision isn't even shown in Canada where they were taping Collision.
That was Malachi's choice, though.
I know.
Yeah, I want to be on Collision. I think it was like, I want to go work on a Saturday and then be at home the rest of the week.
I get that, but you are sabotaging yourself, and the announcers are sabotaging you more, because one of the things they said in that stupid ass match that they had between Curryman and Matt Sydal. And don't get me wrong, I love Christopher Daniels. His time has passed.
Sure, yeah.
And then they say something stupid in that match of, well, FTR is the gateway to the tag team titles. The fuck they are. FTR is just a side hustle for House of Black. The gateway to the tag team is your Golden Jets, because they're the only ones that have the tag team, the tag team match currently with Big Bill and that. So why are you trying to tell me that this is where they need to be? They don't. They need to be somewhere else instead of, is House of Black gonna get FTR to join them bullshit.
Yeah, which I don't buy that story at all, but I know we're wrapping up here. But like, yeah, AEW just has like, Christian's the only villain that's not cool. And that's why the people boo him. But it works for a story.
But he's cool.
He's cool to like, to us, sure. But like, he doesn't do like, AEW is pitching House of Black like you should boo them the way you boo Christian Cage.
Nope.
And it's like, but Malachi has cool tattoos, and Buddy Matthews is built like a brick shit house and fucking is fast as fuck and does cool moves.
It's the NWO thing where they were designed to be bad guys, but the moment they started not trying to do heel stuff and were just trying to be cool, they became, the faces of that company, and that's where so many of these different groups are. So
we'll see if AEW, I mean, it's got a pay-per-view coming up in 3 weeks?
Yep.
So
still no news on a streaming service for next year. Kind of figured we'd have that at this point. So lastly, quick out on this one. How long does the quote unquote bidding war of 2024 last, and how quickly is there an announcement? I guess his contract up December 31st.
I don't think so. He hasn't mentioned it on TV.
I think it's somewhere in January, but again, I think he signed, and I don't care.
Yeah, I don't think they've dropped it too. Like at this point, it's not.
He mentioned it 2 weeks ago, but it hasn't been referenced in a while. I think he's signed.
Yeah. So that was always a weird kind of thing anyway.
Yeah.
I while I think he would do well in WWE, I don't think WWE, well, maybe they do. I mean, they need a solid bad guy, but I think he'd get lost in the shuffle real quick.
There's only one dude in AEW that WWE, well, two, because I think that they would still take Jon Moxley to runs to basically feed him to Roman Reigns, but I don't think Jon Moxley, of all the guys that we think might go back to WWE, I don't think he's ever
No, there was a quote from him last night. I meant to send it to you guys. He was like, look, I've got the house I want. I've got the cars I want.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm doing the work I want to be doing
the number one draft pick, like I said before, is Swerve Strickland.
Yeah. And, I mean, Moxley being back and over there, he was, I mean, I liked Moxley. He was one of my favorite in the Shield, but he phones it in when he's in that organization.
I will. He's very much the type of guy. There's a lot of people like this though. If you're not motivated, it becomes a little like when you were like, when I brought up Ethan Page and you were like, he's got no charisma. I think they just beat that dude down, and I don't blame him necessarily. Like
he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to conventions on the weekend and buy action figures.
Yeah, but
and
like
make vlogs with Danhausen.
You can just see you can see the talent. AEW has a lot of really, really talented guys that the company doesn't put them in the right position.
They've got 100 and something people on that roster.
Yeah, it should be.
And you can't, with the amount of TV time you have and what you're doing with it, you don't need that many people. I'm sorry.
I would. Yeah. So tenants for 2024. If I was I book smaller venues. I'd basically cut the roster in half, and I would, to save money, I would tape Collision on the same nights I tape Dynamite.
So y'all think about this for next week, and we can start making a list. Who are the folks you would cut from AEW, and we'll pick that up next week. If you had to cut 50 people.
Oh, I could cut 50.
In a heartbeat.
And it'd be a big name guy like Miro would be.
Yeah.
I would
Gone.
bring him in the office and be like, if you think you're going to be a big star in WWE, go walk back.
Lethal Jarrett's Dutt and
Jeff Jarrett. Sanjay Dutt's more of a producer though backstage.
you don't need him.
But
well, let's get into this next week because we could go on for a minute on this. But yeah, thank y'all for listening. This has been a supersized episode. We covered a lot of ground this week, and we'll try to pick back up recording next Tuesday night, releasing on Wednesday. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and Threads at Alabama Slam Pod, and you can search the Alabama Slam Podcast on Facebook, and then be sure to follow the Alabama Take on all social medias. That's our network of fellow podcasters. That several podcasts released throughout the week. Just follow the Alabama Take on the socials, or go to thealabamatake.com to get a listing of all of them. And we will see y'all again next week.